Hello, everyone. Welcome to Vietnam 360. My name is George Larrimore. Vietnam 360 is a program designed to allow Vietnam veterans in our community to tell their stories, and for those of us out there to have a chance to listen to them. African Americans have served in the American military since the Revolutionary War, but it was not until the Vietnam War when those units that they served in were desegregated. Now, Vietnam veterans were engaged in a war in Vietnam. At the same time, a lot of African Americans were engaged in the struggle for freedom and equality at home. So it put them in a unique position. What we're going to talk about today are the ways that Vietnam affected the lives of Vietnam veterans before, during, and after the war. We're joined today by William Roberson and Gregory Buffkins, who served in Vietnam. So let's just get right to it. William, how did you happen to get to Vietnam in the first place? What were the circumstances in which you ended up going in the military and serving in the war?
Well, I was drafted. I was drafted for 2 years, and apparently here recently I found out I was drafted for Vietnam and Vietnam only. So I went to Vietnam and stayed a year, and fortunately, I didn't have to use a weapon.
You would say you were drafted for Vietnam only. What does that mean?
Well, it was 1965. The war was big. I remember before I went in, I used to read the newspapers, the death lists from people from our area, see who I knew, and they were just bringing in young men in big numbers, and so I didn't think I was going to get drafted.
Now, it was during that time that, and this was very controversial at the time, there were significantly more African Americans per the number of African Americans in the population serving in line companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I it took a while for me to notice that because I saw a lot of white guys being drafted also. And for example, I was drafted and sent to Fort Benning, Georgia for basic training. And most of the guys in each platoon in the company, it was maybe like 60, 70, 60-40 white guys. It was a large number of blacks, but it was also a large number of whites. And so I left there and went to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and went there for advanced training. And I was, they made me a clerk, and I was trained there in the various administrative skills, and then from there I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and stayed there for a few months, and then we went to Vietnam.
Gregory, how was it? You were 17 years old, I believe you told me, that your mother signed the papers to allow you to go into the Army.
Correct. Well, I was juvenile. I started getting in trouble, shooting, hooking from school. And I knew I was hurting my mother. I was in a single parent home. And that's the only thing I could think of to do. And maybe she would be proud of me and I would get out of her hair. But like when she signed me, I was like gone the next day. And I was in the reception unit. I was in an all-white barrack. I was the only black because I was a volunteer. And they had like RAs and regular draft. They was like separated. And that was a mind-blowing experience for me. I'd never been around that many white people in my life, you know, and it was, I mean, I cried. I called my mother, told her to try to get me out. She says nothing she could do. Just try to make the best of it. And that's what I did. I tried to be the best, do the best that I could when I was in there, because I really wanted her to be proud of me, you know.
William, did you have was there any question in your mind as to whether you would go or not? whether you would go in the military, because there were a lot of people saying, I'm not going to go. As you remember, Muhammad Ali at the time made the comment
Yeah.
about no Vietnam, no Viet Cong ever called me by the N-word.
I remember.
Did it ever occur to you, maybe I won't go?
Yeah, I thought about it considerably. Thought about going to Canada, but then I thought about the big picture. What if I do this? What if I change my mind after I run away to wherever I'm going? And I thought I would prefer to stay here in the USA than to go somewhere else. So I thought I got to go and just make the best of it. So clearly I didn't want to be in the military. But then after I got in, I saw that I liked the structure, the organization, and I didn't mind all the screaming and cursing, from the drill sergeants. As a matter of fact, I had a good time.
Gregory, what was your early experience when you were in training?
Well, I went to basic training, and then from basic, I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Fort Polk, Louisiana, when you go there, it's automatic ticket to Vietnam. So, I was kind of hurt, let down, but this process was so fast. I can remember coming home from school, seeing Vietnam on the news, and looked like I went to sleep, and the next day I was in Vietnam with the training and all. It was seemed to be overnight,
And you were what they call an 11 Bravo.
Bravo, that's right.
What did you think when you, for those who don't know, 11 Bravo was a designation of infantry in the
Infantry,
Army.
that's right.
What did you think when you first heard your name and 11 Bravo along with it?
Well, I was young and dumb. I really didn't think too much of it, but I wanted to go to special division. I wanted to go to the first CAR because the patches were so pretty. And I was hurt because I didn't get there. And anyway, I ended up in the 25th Infantry, and I got really into that division. It was like my division.
You were naive.
Yeah, very naive, yeah. And but I grew up fast. You had to grow up. I had to grow up real fast, and it was I think I missed something in life by going up and growing so fast by going in at that age. But I learned a lot too.
I guess when you're 17 years old,
Yeah.
people are still thinking about,
Right.
they don't have a clue what they can do with their life
No,
necessarily.
no. I didn't. I really didn't. And anyway, like I say, it was a way for me not to worry my mother. I thought I wasn't worrying my mother, but I even worried her more. But I was doing it positive way instead of negative way on the streets and stuff. So that came out to be pretty good. She was proud of it.
William, what was your impression when you got to Vietnam? What did you think of, what hit you when you first got there?
Well, the first day I got there, I went by ship, by the way, and it took 28 days to cross the Pacific. And when I got there, we got there at night, and I could see fire off in the distance, some small arms fire. But then the next day, we had a big stop in a place called Cameron Bay, and a lot of guys were let off of the ship at that time. But while we were had that stop there in Cameron Bay, some VCs were on this hill that we could see. It looked like maybe it was several miles from the water, and jets were called in to take them out. And so I'm standing there on the side of the ship, watching this. This is essentially within my first full 48 hours, full 24 hours. And I remember thinking that I had never seen actual warfare outside of television. I was scared. And so I said to myself, this is a real thing. You've got to get serious and do what you're supposed to do, and hopefully you'll come back.
Now, Gregory, when did you get to Vietnam? And I want to say to people, you were at Cu Chi and
Cu Chi,
Tay Ninh with the
Tay Ninh.
25th Infantry
Correct.
Division.
Correct.
That's in the area around Saigon.
Yep, right outside of Saigon, and Tay Ninh was close to the Cambodian border. So it was constantly troops, NVA and Viet Cong come across the border up around Tay Ninh. They stayed with like rocket attacks, you know. Black Virgin Mountain, they was on the mountain shooting rockets into the face, and it was like, but the thing that got me when I got there, I saw these guys that had been in country for a while, and they like had this look, and they was dusty, dirty. They could ride tanks and not even hold nothing, you know. I said, man, I'd be glad when I get like that. But I didn't realize they had seen so much death and destruction till they had no feelings, you know. They was alienated from what was going around. And I ended up like them, ended up just like them. But it was so amazing to see them. What they call it, some people call it the Gooner bird stare. You know, they could just look and they be looking but not seeing. Tombstones in their eyes, you know. And that's what I wanted to become like, you know.
So you were still, in a way, I mean, pardon the expression, but you were still a bit of a kid.
Yes, definitely. I was 18 in Vietnam, turned 18, you know. So yeah, I was still a kid. I don't know when you're supposed to go from a kid to an adult, but like I said, I got out before I was 21. And then during that time, I think you had to be 21 to go in the liquor store. And I'd already been to war and out, been to war twice, you know, so. And I think I read somewhere where Vietnam was one of the wars that they sent young people over there, you know, and we went as individuals. We didn't go as a whole unit. They chip you out one at a time. You know, you go to the airport and a whole bunch of military guys be on the airplane, but you don't go as a division, as a group. You go over there one and you come back one. And that was something that they said was lost in the Vietnam, the camaraderie, you know.
That was,
You go say something.
that was something that was quite clear to me, the young people. We were just, it looked like we were around Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
I mean, so many young people. I used to ask myself, how can we win this war with these boys here, including myself, because I was only 19. And I didn't like being in a war. I didn't like that at all, because I was always constantly thinking about, I'm not going to make it back home, you know. So, go ahead.
I want to ask you both something. It was not controversial then, but it's controversial now, and that is the expression "gook," which everyone, virtually everyone in Vietnam referred to. That's the way in which they referred to virtually every Vietnamese, Viet Cong, North Vietnamese, or Vietnamese civilian, the term "gook." Now, when you heard that term, did that strike you in any way that the N-word struck you?
Yeah, exactly. Because I thought about, the first time I heard the word gook, I thought, what is that?
Yeah.
What is that about? And then after I come to understand it, I thought, you know, racism is the same the world over. It's not only about African Americans, it's about other groups. Everybody is into that racially negative stuff.
But in a way, it's like they're giving you permission to use a word like that. They're saying, okay, yeah, they're gooks, call them gooks.
I know, but I chose not to. I just didn't think it was right. I didn't like the term gook. Gook, what is that? You know, it sounds goofy.
Yeah. What did you think?
Well, to me, it was just normal. It was the norm. I was straight leg run out there, and that's what it was the enemy name, Goop, you know, and I really didn't think too much of it. I could see what he's saying and understand it, but for me being out there, and it was, I don't want to use the word that I hated him, but I did in order to you know, it's either kill or be killed.
Yeah.
And that put me in the mind frame, you know, that's another goop, you know what I'm saying?
That's a dehumanizing thing.
Oh, definitely.
However you
Yeah.
look at that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's in a way that I think that's the way since the dawn of time they've approached people who fight wars. You have to reach a point of being, in a way, dehumanized
Yes,
in order to do what you have
yes,
to do.
yes.
I'd like both of you to talk about, if you would, the death of Dr. King in Memphis. I think you were back from Vietnam by that point, right?
Yeah, I got back 2 days after he was assassinated. And when I first read about it in the U.S. in the Army paper, first thing crossed my mind, being from Memphis, I thought, wow, why Memphis? Why my home? And so, I swallowed that up. And on the way back, I kept thinking about what is it going to be like? What is the streets going to be like? Because I had also read that the National Guard was here in town to help out with the local law enforcement people. And when I got back, when I stepped out of the airport, it looked like a ghost town. I mean, there were no cars on the street. The only thing that was on the street was military vehicles. So I thought, it's terrible. I'm in Vietnam, all that stuff happening over there. Then King gets killed. I just thought about what's next. It's sort of like the way it is now. You got Kim Il-jung, North Korea. He wants to fight. For heaven's sakes, why? What it? I don't see. I can't, for the life of me, I can't fathom this man wanting to go to war with the USA, a big, strong country. But you asked me about Vietnam.
Yeah.
So
And about it being happening in Memphis, yeah.
yeah, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Where were you at the time?
I was in, I had just got to Vietnam.
You just-
I got there in March of '68. He was killed in April. I knew what Martin Luther King was doing, but I too, just like he said, I was hurt more that he got killed in Memphis. I mean, that kind of devastated me. But by me being an infantry out there with my life on the line, I could not stay in that moment. I sympathized with what was going on back here, empathize, however you want to put it. But I had to stay focused on what I was doing. So I really didn't feel that much at the time. Like I say, the main hurt for me was that it happened here. I kind of, figured something was going to happen to Martin Luther King eventually. But like I said, it just tore me apart that it happened in Memphis. But like I had to go on with trying to survive myself,
I want to ask you both about, I remember when I was in Vietnam, it for the first time, it made me neighbors with black people. I've been trying to think of the right way to express this, meaning that I'm living in a tent, I'm sleeping on the ground, I'm in a unit with black guys intimately every day, and you were in the same situation with white guys. How did you react to that or feel about that, or how did that change the way that you saw white people?
Well, that's an interesting question, because I had some white friends before I left, and so I didn't have this totally negative feeling about all white people. Everybody's the same, because like with African Americans, we're not all the same. So being in the military, I developed friendships, long-lasting friendships to this day, and it was okay. It wasn't a bad thing. That wasn't, because of the war, that wasn't the most significant thing that we had to deal with at the time. The war was what we had to deal with. And I'm glad I went through it.
Yeah.
Now I'm glad I went through it. It was an experience. I'm glad I had the close relationship I did with some whites, although everybody in my platoon was not white guys. They were not, they were hard-nosed guys. But everything worked out fine.
Now you were in a grunt company,
Yeah.
so you get a camaraderie that you don't get any other way.
Yes, yes.
And you've talked, when you and I talked on the phone, we talked about that, how there becomes a solidarity that began when you got there, but didn't necessarily last after it was over.
No, well, war, I think bloodshed makes strange bedfellows. And it was all about survival. I've seen white guys get wounded and blacks would go get them. And some of them would get killed in the process of going to try to get them, pull them back to safety, vice versa. White guy was going to get black. And I don't know what happened when it comes back to the United States. And I just don't know what happened. But for me, I don't judge a person. I give them the benefit of the doubt. You know what I'm saying? And a black or white. Because we put emphasis on white racism. I found you got lots of blacks that's just as racist that I don't even want to deal with either. So I mean, even though we're in Vietnam, because I went back twice to the river, and you go to the store, they do what you call a black dap. You got to hit all these people, elbows, arms, and stuff. That made it be a whole row of black guys. And you got to go through all them. If you don't do it, you be like, no, you ain't with the movement. I'm like, man, I'm trying to get into this store, But I didn't really feel racism there. I really tried to love, because that's all we had was each other to love. That's the only memory. If the States was gone, you put that out, half of us that did have girlfriends didn't have them no more. So it was like a love between the two of us, that you let all that go.
Yeah, I think for people who don't have the experience, it's hard to imagine, and I'd like to hear you express that sense that we're in this together. I mean, people say, well, we're people fighting for an ideology. But my feeling from the guys I knew in Vietnam, people were fighting for each other.
Right. Also, you was fighting for self-defense. You weren't really there for the aggression part that you're supposed to be sent there for. I'm trying to, you protecting my back and I'm protecting your back. If somebody out there got shot, they just got shot. I mean, it sounds cold, but that's the way it was, because they were going to shoot us. And it was just, your life depended. My life was in your hands, and your life was in mine. If I let you down, that could cause you to get killed. And it just went back and forth like that. You know what I'm saying? You had to have it. You had to have it.
That's right. That's right, because we were told, watch your back. You don't only have to worry. We didn't only have to worry about the Vietnamese. We had to worry about our own little skirmishes that we had with each other.
Yeah.
And because people would shoot one another.
Yeah.
Hatred.
I mean, so all the things that were going on in the United States, you were not immune to those things by any means.
Oh, no. I met some good guys, both white and black, and Latino. I met some real good guys.
Tell me what it was like when you came back to the States, because things had changed quite a bit by then, I would think, in terms of attitudes toward the war.
Well, I resumed my life, and I started working for the government when I got back, and the post office. And there were lots of, you know how the post office is, lots of different races, and so it was almost like the military. I just blended in and tried to forget about the war and just blend back into my old lifestyle and, make the best of what I had. So I don't know if I'm answering you.
Yeah, you are. But what did people say to you about Vietnam? Did people engage with you and talk with you about it?
Yeah, and I know that the Vietnam War was not a positive war to where Americans were proud to be involved. But people treated me with respect, and as a returning veteran, I never felt like my time in the military was not appreciated. I think about that when I see stuff on the news now about the way it was back then. So people protested all the time, and you remember it was Henry Fonda's daughter,
Jane Fonda, yeah.
Jane Fonda. She was our most notable member to come over and protest the war.
So you felt respect generally from people.
I did. From not only from my family, but from friends, strangers. I felt people treated me nice. I don't know why, but they treated me nice.
Now, Gregory, the way you've explained it to me, and you to make it clear, you did 2 tours of Vietnam,
Yes,
two entirely
yeah.
different jobs, so to
Right,
speak. But
right.
the first time you came back, you weren't necessarily comfortable here.
No.
Tell us about that.
Well, I came back and they sent me to an infantry unit up in Kansas, 24th Infantry. And it was cold, we playing war games. I had been in the war anyway. And like I said, my brother was getting ready to go, so I just 1049 back to keep him from going, because I was already adjusted to it. You know, I had a profile for no walking or standing or nothing. I could have got in the commissary or something, but me being naive, I went to the aviation unit.
But you'd been wounded in
Yeah.
the infantry, so
Right.
Make
That's
that
how I
clear.
got sent back. I was shot in both legs and my right hand. And so I had to come back and I had to have another surgery on my hand, but it came back pretty good. My nerves came back in my fingers because my nerves were severed. And how they found out, well, I had what you call a $1 million wound. We could smoke inside the hospitals there, and I was smoking, and me and some guys were talking, and we started smelling something burning. And dude said, "Man, your hand's smoking." I'm like, what? But anyway, my hand was on fire from the cigarette and stuff. So doctor come in and said, "You got the $1 million wound, you're going home." So I came back and I had to do some training, had to do some more surgeries on my hand. Anyway, I ended up back in the infantry unit. And like it was freezing cold out there, and they had us out here in these doggone mountains up there in Kansas, man. I'm like, I can't take this no more. So anyway, I went back. My brother was going, and I thought it would be my advantage to go back. So anyway, I got back and I got with the aviation unit, not knowing that the aviation unit, a gunner's life expectancy is shorter than an infantryman's life expectancy. I think it's 10 seconds in a firefight on a helicopter. So like I got shot down the first time, I tried to get back to the infantry unit, but the aviation unit wouldn't let me go because they liked the infantryman with them in case they crashed. You know what to do. But anyway, I was shot up again in the jaw, across the shoulder. I was in 3 helicopter crashes. Second and third degree burn in the face, neck, both arms. And, at first, and they skipped me like a rabbit. So I was like white, And I said, I'm just not going back like this. I'm just going to stay over here somewhere. But anyway, the doctors did a wonderful job, or really did, to be field hospitals and stuff like that. You see people with third-degree burns, they have like those, it's really horrible. But anyway, they did a pretty good job. But anyway, my experience with coming back to the United States, I had heard so much from guys coming back like I did, telling me how they was treated when they came back to the States. When I landed in Oakland, I had 4 months left. And if you have less than 6 months, they let you ETS. They let you go out. So when I got to Oakland, they processed me out. And I was frightened. I was more frightened to come back to civilization than I was in Vietnam. Because I've heard how they treated them, how people were getting shot, in the cabs. In the cab going to the airport, I laid down. That's how frightened I was. And when I got back home, it was like my life I didn't have no life. I went in at 17. As he said, he resumed his life. I didn't even have a life. I hadn't started no life, really.
Yeah, you were a kid.
So, yeah, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I belonged, nothing, and it was, today, I don't know how they let guys come from the jungle back to the streets without a transition. You know what I'm saying? You can't help but have some of that stuff still in you. But most of us, try to keep the demon down by drinking or drugs. You try to keep it down. But no, it was a horrible experience for me coming back here. It really was.
Tell us tell us about your experience of working with Vietnam veterans in a volunteer capacity.
Well,
when did that happen, and how did you arrive at the choice of doing that?
it started when, 2007. That's when I retired, and so I started wondering, what am I going to do with my life here in retirement? And so I found out about the volunteer unit at the VA. So I was already going to the VA for medical reasons, and I went up and had a talk with the chief of voluntary services, and we had a good talk. And I thought, from what I heard from her, I like this. And so she gave me a large catalog, to look at jobs that were available to veterans. And so I looked through it to find out what I wanted to do. But I had some medical issues at the time that prevented me from accepting certain jobs. For example, like, they have vans over at the hospital where drivers go and pick these guys up from home, bring them in for their appointments, and then take them back. Well, because I had developed diabetes, you couldn't drive because there was always that fear your blood sugar may go too high or too low, and you wreck the vehicle and hurt the patient. So while I was sorting through the catalog, I saw a guy's name and the organization he was involved with. His name, and I want to say this to the audience, his name was Carl Burkholz. He was my vice president at FedEx, and he had already retired. And so the FedEx retiree group had come to somewhat adopt the VA hospital as a group that they wanted to help make a difference, money-wise, food-wise, any way they could. So I thought I want to get in touch with Mr. Burkholz as quickly as I can. And I did. And he said, like he always said, welcome aboard, and he was a veteran too. And so, as a matter of fact, most of the males in the organization are veterans. And so it just started from that. And because I had already started at the VA hospital, I wound up first becoming the liaison for the FedEx retiree group at the VA, meaning I would bring in donations, like coffee, magazine, hardback books, softback books, anything that our people were willing to give.
And you could see that veterans needed attention, needed help.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was horrified at the many veterans I would see at the VA hospital who were suffering economically. And, that's...
And it's getting no better now. I mean, those veterans are our age.
Yeah.
And so it's getting even harder for them to live. What was your experience? I know since you've been wounded several times, you obviously engaged with the VA. Yeah. Was that a good experience for you overall?
I have had very good experience with the VA. Very good. I hear people saying problems, but I've had very, very good experience. And my biggest battle even after Vietnam, was with myself. I didn't know what was going on with me with the PTSD. I thought it would go away
When were you
tomorrow.
diagnosed with PTSD?
I took a test. I was up in Massachusetts, and these college kids came through giving tests. And the lady came back with the results. She said, "Mr. Buffkins, do you know you severe PTSD?" I'm like, "What is that?" You know what I'm saying? I didn't know. So I know I put in a claim, and they gave me 10% right then. But I just thought I was shell shocked. You know, loud noises. I still was jumping on the ground. And like I said, I would think it would go away tomorrow.
And this is how many years after?
Oh, man, I'm still doing it. Not as much, but I'm learning different techniques. Like I try not to get myself too stressed out. Because when I get really stressed, you know, all that, it's like automatic. You know, 'cause the heat, sometimes the way it's been hot, it takes me back. It's different little signs, but I'm just now learning about. And it's helping me. You know, I've been in battle for, 48 years with this. And I'd rather been called an alcoholic or an addict than to been called crazy, because that's what they were calling us. He's a crazy Vietnam vet. But now being an alcoholic or an addict was more acceptable. I don't know if you can understand what I'm saying, but you was
Yes.
accepted more being that than to have a mental issue, especially in the black community.
But that brings up a point I wanted to ask you guys to address. That is the perception of the Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
In the media, in the movies, wherever. It seems to me that we're too often seen as drug crazed or alcoholic or violent or abusive or any number of things. What is your impression of the Vietnam veteran, and is that impression changing?
Well, since I was in the military, I have a different opinion about the Vietnam vet and any other vet who has some kind of problems. I just see the military. If you go through the military, you're either going to come out and better, or you're going to come out discombobulated. It's one or the other. And if you come out discombobulated, people are going to think you're nuts. Yeah. You know, I've heard that stuff. I don't buy into that. I just.
Yeah, I don't think it's accurate either. And I guess maybe I'm not asking the question the right way. I don't think it's accurate. But do you think most people who are not veterans, how do they see us? And is that an accurate way to see us?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. That people do. The ones who don't know, they don't know what the military asks of you. They don't know, so they think the worst. There's a lot of terrible things taking place in the minds of people who've not gone to the military. I think the military I really think the draft should be in place for everybody, and you should have to go, because in the long run, I think when guys come back from the military, they're in better shape. Most guys are in better shape post military than they were when they went in. You know, it's what you make out of it. And if you're going to go to the military and get in there and start complaining and, just whining, your life is not going to be too good when you get out, because you didn't take advantage of the good things about the military. I mean, you're clothed, you're trained, you're educated to do some type of job, but you have to put your life on the line. That's what the military is about.
I tend to kind of disagree with that. I understand what you're saying, but I really do disagree. It's according to what job you get, what MOS you have.
True.
If I'm out there or infantry, it's certain things, even back here I could deal with better than I always got, but it's like tight situations. Even though I did drugs and alcohol, a lot of my doctors said that wasn't what got me. I was an adrenaline junkie. It was the things that I go through to get it. It kept me on the wire, kept me on the line. I was in and out of prison. Everywhere I went, I tried to change, but I'm still, everywhere I went, there I was, you know. And then by being infantry and seeing this carnage, I couldn't talk to nobody about that. All that stuff was inside me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, if a war broke out here, you couldn't have a better man than me. But what good is that now? What good am I here? You know, and you know, I've been struggling with this for years. You know, what can I do? And this stuff would still just, it steadily would hunt me. But like in a tight spot, tight situation, I'm the best person in the world to be with.
But that occupation you had, that training you got, that experience you had, does not apply in any other place.
It don't apply. Plus, certain things that I used to survive there, I brought it with me, and it's causing my demise here. Like cutting off my emotions. We friends, we camaraderie. All right, after a few times I see my buddies get killed, my emotions cut off for the next person, because I don't want to be hurt. You know, I care for them, but the love, it started diminishing, because I know mentally if I start loving them, I'm going to break eventually. And it's caused me problems today. I've been married, I've kept my wife away from me, kept my son, I have that survivor's guilt. If you mess with me, you're going to end up dead, you know. I didn't want to feel, period. You know, but it was, it worked for me then, but I got so in the habit of doing it, I do it unconsciously now, you know. But I'm learning to love. I'm learning to let somebody love me. I don't even want you to love me, because I might be dead the next minute. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then, like I said, if you get the right job in the service, yes, you could go far, you know, when you get out. You know, like now they have all the computers and stuff like that, you know. But like when I went in, that wasn't straight for you going to the field. You know what I'm saying? The majority of the guys, black or white. Now, you was talking about that issue of a different ratio. I think during the Vietnam, it was the average white guy ended up in the field too. It was about money, you got different positions with the white, or got out. You know, like you was talking about going to Canada, they got out. But if you was a poor white guy, you end up in the field just like black dudes. You know what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes we put too much emphasis. I feel that we put too much emphasis on some of these things. Okay. And like I do believe from the suffering and the misrepresentation that the Vietnam vet had, the veterans today are getting treated better. They didn't want to acknowledge PTSD. It was shell-shock in World War I. And now they find out these problems, they go on, they just don't go away. Yeah. And now these guys getting out now, they are actively trying to help them. Yeah. And it's because of that, some of the, you know, things that they put on us. You know, the Vietnam veteran, he's crazy. But they didn't address nothing. Yeah. They didn't address us at all with that kind of stuff. And then war is hell. And once you be in there so long, what they say, once you're a cucumber, they make you a pickle. You can't go back to a cucumber. Well, that's what has happened. You know what I'm saying? Now I respect all parts of the service. I really do. I don't care what you are, because the military is a well-oiled machine. It takes all parts. It takes the clerks, the cooks, the supply sergeant. It takes them all to make it go. You know what I'm saying? But now, if I hadn't been so naive, I might have went on to the PX and worked in there, stay behind the lines. But I wanted the excitement. I wanted to look cool with aviation shades. You know, you wear flight suits and stuff like that. Here I get almost killed again. You know, nothing changes. But and
William, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You were talking about the military, the value of the military, and you alluded a little bit to the wars we're fighting today. it seems to me anyway that we are in a position that's not unlike Vietnam, in which Vietnam was generally speaking fought by poor whites, African Americans, and a lot of Latinos. It seems to me that the wars we're fighting today are being fought by people who need the military for economic reasons. So I question, are we as a country fighting all these wars that we are in today? What's your feeling about that? Because you've expressed the notion that perhaps we need a draft or some sort of national service. Do you think the wars are being fought fairly today?
That's a tough question. I do think that my reason for saying that conscription, the draft, should still be in place is because I see so much crime from so many young men. It's like they don't know what they're doing. They don't have they need some discipline, and that's why I think everybody should be required to go to the military, because whether you like it or not, the military can make you better if you allow it to happen. But if you go in there with a negative attitude, and it's not going to turn out good for you. But it's just like anything else. And I think that I still think the military is a good thing.
Let me ask you about something that's happened, or really gotten in a lot sharper focus over the last couple of weeks, and the attitude of veterans and the ideas of veterans about it is important to the argument, and that is the kneeling down before football games. It's become, over the weekend, as you know, a very big deal. And a lot of people will fall back and say, well, this is why they'll say, support our troops, therefore stand during the national anthem, or our troops are fighting for us to have the right to kneel down. So that, in other words, the attitude of veterans is being thrown around a lot by people who are not veterans in this argument. What's your thought when you saw the kneeling down, or first were aware of the controversy about it?
I asked myself, I think on the games, what's the day, Tuesday? I was watching Monday Night Football last night. If I was one of the players, would I kneel down? And just what do I think about it in general? I understand what they're doing, but I don't have those kinds of negative feelings to that degree that I would kneel. If that's what you want to do, go for it. But I try to look at the big picture. I try to, he and I, our forefathers were brought here as slaves, and many changes have happened since way back. Things have gotten slowly better. It may not be as good as some of us wanted, but things have gotten better. My life has not been bad. So, and I know that just because mine hasn't been bad doesn't mean that the next guy hasn't had a bad life. But because of, I've tried to take advantage of every opportunity this country has to offer, and for me, that's been a good thing. And so I can't complain. When I came back from Vietnam, let me add this: when I came back from Vietnam, I felt like when I was in Vietnam, I saw poverty like I'd never seen it before. People living in those shacks, up on stilts. They didn't have any clothing, to make a change every day. They just lived by it was terrible. And I got to thinking that the people over there who are poor are worse off than they are in America. Sure, there are a lot of poor people here, but if you make it up in your mind, you're going to do the best you can for you. You can make an improvement, and you may not become rich, but you can you can make a life. And this is, I believe that this is a country, in spite of what my forefathers have gone through, this is a pretty good country when you take advantage of the opportunities. Watch who you associate with, that more than anything. Make sure you're doing the right thing, and everybody can't do that. But it worked for me. So,
What's your thought about it?
I fought for that flag. And one of the things that I really respect about the flag is that you have the right to protest.
good point.
I wouldn't burn it. And the right to peaceful protest. That's part of our rights. Up under that flag. And I don't knock anybody. If that's what you want to do it if it's for the good. And that, like, I just can't get out of that. That's our right as a people to protest in America. Other countries can't do anything like that. I mean, that's long near. You can't vocally say anything against it, but, I respect, I respect other people's opinion, I fought for that flag, and at that time, I guess I was willing to die for it,
Let me ask you something. I'd like, if you can, to express to people again, the people that don't know and haven't experienced it, what it's like to be in combat. What an experience that you had that describes to people who don't understand the experience what it's like, what goes through your head, what is in your mind.
It's all life and death, right there in your face. You can sit here and think about what you would do in a different situation, but there, it's right there. And believe it or not, we are well-trained troops. And certain things kick in. You don't realize that it kicked in. And it kicked in because when I first got my first firefight, I got behind a tree that big. I'm like, oh no, this is for real. But I come out of that because you had to put down firepower to keep them down. You have to get up and shoot. I got bronze star with the V. It's not that I went out there to be a hero. We crashed in between the friendly and the enemy. We got to get back because 4 men either side would kill us. We don't matter. So we had to get up shooting and back it up shooting in order to get back with them, And it's not a point of that I want to kill. It's a point. I'm in the position where it's either kill or be killed, I used to joke about some guy running up on the Vietnamese and one American soldier. Both of them throw their guns down and run the opposite ways, But it's the position that they put you in, man. They fly you right there to be shot. That's it. So you're trying everything you can not to get shot. You don't sleep.
Your nerves are ruined.
Yeah. You be out on ambush patrol. You never sleep. I mean, you sleep, you nod for a few hours. This go on a year. That you sleep for a little while, get up because you got to pull guard duty. It's 24/7. Then you get up that morning, you got to do a forced march somewhere. You might do 10, 15 clicks. You know what I'm saying? Then you got to be on edge, watching every tree branch. Everything is against you. You walk by a tree, a bush, and all of a sudden you might see an ant on you. And it's like they said, 1, 2, 3, bite. They are all over your body.
Yeah.
Somebody got to get them off. Somebody got to help get them off them fire ants. I mean, big ones, And it's like, it's a horrible. And then, like I said, I've been fighting this battle ever since I got out. It's over 48 years. I'll be 68 Thursday. 48 years I've been fighting this, but I'm finally getting some closure to it. It's because one thing, I finally realized what was going on with me. And before I tried to hide it, I would isolate at home. Didn't want nobody to know what I'm going through, and then by talking like we're talking, finding more and more veterans I could identify. Well, oh wow, that's what I was doing. So it is getting better. And then, like I say, I'm especially proud of the Gulf War, Iraq, Iran, all of them, because they're getting treated much better than the Vietnam vet was. You know, it's like they just started coming up with that "thank you for serving." You know, and when I got out, I was proud inside, but I didn't really want nobody to know that I was a Vietnam veteran. You know, but like I am proud I made it. You know.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left, and I want to ask both of you to go to that. Are you you're proud of your time in Vietnam? You're proud of your time in the Army?
You addressing that to him?
Yeah, I'm definitely proud. I'm proud of it now. I'm proud. It was a time that I
mean,
was
you
kinda
struggled
sad.
with it a lot.
Yeah, but I am proud that I served. I think I did the right thing at that time, and I think I made my country proud. This is my country too.
This is where you were born?
Yeah, this is my country, and yes, I'm proud.
William, what's your feeling? Here we are, 50 years, more than 50 years now for you.
Yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud because, as I said, I saw a lot of pluses with going to the military, and the opportunities that are there for veterans, it's so many. And if you don't dig, you won't find out what's happening, which is like with anything else. If you don't apply yourself, if you don't do what you have to do to make a good go of your life, you know, you won't find the good things in life.
Our last question: do you think America learned from Vietnam?
Oh, sure.
What did America learn from Vietnam?
Well, in terms of how the American military man is treated today, that I can see. That's clear that veterans are treated much better today. Now, as far as getting involved in other countries' problems, it appears that America hasn't learned about that, in my opinion. I think we need to stay away from other countries' problems, because, you know, so many of our people suffer, our men who go off and fight wars. It's too much. And we need to find a way. We need to find a way to sit down at the table and talk it over, as opposed to fighting.
All right. I appreciate very much both of you being here, both
you.
of you sharing your experiences and your memories. We'll put an email address up on the screen. If you or someone you know would like to take part in our show, please email us at Vietnam360, and we'll talk with you about getting you on this show. But again, appreciate our veterans being here today. We appreciate the Library Channel having us on, the Memphis Public Library having us on, and have a good day to you.